Good morning, everyone. We will call this workshop session of the Del Mar College District Board of Regents to order at 10 a.m. It is Tuesday, September 13th. We will start with a roll call. Mr. Garza? Here. Ms. Averett? Here. Dr. Adami? Here. Dr. Villarreal? Here. Mr. Bennett?
Here.
I'm Carol Scott. We have a quorum and can conduct business. Would you all please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Dr. Villarreal, would you lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance? Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And would you all please join me in reading the Del Mar College Vision Statement. Del Mar College will be the premier choice for life-changing educational opportunities provided by responsive, innovative faculty and staff who empower students to improve local and global communities. Del Mar College is streaming live audio and video from our official Board of Regents meetings on the college's website in real time, with the exception of portions of the meeting that may be considered closed session by statute. We do have an opportunity for general public comment on our workshop agenda today. Is there anyone here for general public comment? Seeing none, we will move straight into our workshop session. We are looking forward to a robust discussion of our current strategic plan, as well as updates and then the new planning cycle. Dr. Escamilla, would you like to provide introductory remarks?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Regents team and those on air that are watching us. This is an important, critical kind of restart and resetting and kind of reevaluating of our college's strategic plan. The college has been well known for its planning efforts for a very long time now, and the discussion that's going on today is all about moving forward with continuing plan, making adjustments, and preparing for the future. All those three things at once. And so get ready. And also to include another item that'll be part of the adjustments that has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and our steps going forward with those efforts. So with that being said, Dr. Christina Wilson will lead us in our conversation. And please, any and all feedback is welcome. And we look forward to this morning's meeting. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So good to see you here today, and I'm excited to be leading the discussion this morning about our strategic plan.
Okay, I'll fix it.
Our strategic plan, entitled Aspire, Engage, Achieve, was adopted in 2019 and includes 6 overarching goals. During the past 3 years, you have received in-depth updates on our key performance indicators and the progress we have made on our strategies. As we embark on year 4 of the planning cycle, we need to start thinking about the next 5 years at Del Mar College, while we simultaneously continue to implement our current plan. So let's take a look at the overall timeline for our strategic planning activities. The work to develop our current plan began in 2018 and culminated in the plan's approval in September of 2019. Since then, we have implemented the plan's goals, objectives, and strategies, and have monitored our progress through analysis of the KPIs and through annual departmental progress updates. As you can see with the red arrow, this is where we are in our planning journey. We are still implementing and monitoring our current plan, but it's time for us to embark on the next planning cycle. The work to develop the next cycle will begin in January of 2023. This morning's workshop will cover 3 topics: updates that we have made to the current strategic plan, the launch of the new planning cycle, and key performance indicator updates. I will be joined by my colleagues, Dr. Sydney Sambi and Dr. Carlos Garanzuay, in discussing these topics. Are there any questions at this time? Okay. Let's get started with a discussion of our current strategic plan, Aspire, Engage, Achieve. In today's meeting packet, there are two sets of plans: the college's updated strategic plan and the updated operational plan. Let's discuss what the commonalities and differences are between these two plans. The college's strategic plan includes our mission, our vision, and our core values. It also includes our goals, KPIs, and objectives. In other words, the strategic plan includes our high-level planning activities, and it does not include the operational aspects of the strategic plan. Strategic plans are designed to be updated really only rarely and in exceptional circumstances. You will notice, hopefully you've noticed already, that this version of the strategic plan looks very different from the one that you're accustomed to. I'm very proud today to present to you a new strategic plan with our new logo, our new colors, and with photos of the individuals who are at the center of our work, our students. This is our new strategic plan. Our operational plan, which is also in your packet, contains the same content as our strategic plan, but with additional components. The specific thresholds and targets for our KPIs are included, along with our institutional strategies to meet our goals, objectives, our thresholds, and our targets. Our operational plan is intended to be updated regularly, and currently we're on the third version of our operational plan. I'll pause here for any questions or comments. Okay. The necessary updates that are reflected in the plans were determined through a variety of methods. Every administrative, student support, and instructional unit on campus is required to provide progress updates on their goals annually. Updates were made based on progress made and emerging priorities. Updates were also made based on emerging priorities identified during board meetings and executive team meetings. Finally, the Strategic Planning Committee provided feedback and recommendations on updates to the plan. Okay. Now let's take a look at some of the updates that you'll find within the planning documents. Within Goal 2, Recruitment and Persistence, there is a new objective entitled Post-COVID Support. The college will connect with, re-engage, and provide supports to students who are impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic was something that could not have been anticipated when this plan was first written. We have always been dedicated to helping students begin their college careers and to persist, but now we must also be mindful of the additional challenges that COVID-19 has created. Within Goal 4, Learning Environments, we have added an objective titled Equity. The college will transform college practices to target and eliminate specific barriers to student success and address students' needs by centering equity within all practices. Our strategic plan is very student-focused. We've discussed this over the course of prior workshops. However, we cannot do student success work without also seeking to ensure that students, all of our students, have the opportunity to achieve equitable outcomes. There will be a presentation following this workshop regarding the college's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. We have also updated several objectives. Here are a few examples. The continuing education objective, which supports Goal 1, completion, has been updated to reflect emerging priorities. The college will strengthen pathways from continuing education programs to credit programs and strengthen data collection and analysis processes of students enrolled in continuing education programs. Accountability and recognition of CE programs is changing at the state level, and we are seeking to ensure that we capture the successes of our CE students just as we capture the successes of our credit students. We have updated the language on onboarding to reflect the language in our strategic enrollment management plan. And we have also adjusted several objectives to reflect the fact that our students learn in all modalities, which includes face-to-face, online, and hybrid environments. We have several new strategies as well. The coordinating board has issued new guidance regarding transfer initiatives, and this new strategy on the Texas Transfer Framework reflects this change. We are also embarking on a new initiative with the Hope Impact Partnerships organization to support students' basic needs. The partnership will help us to address issues such as food and housing insecurity. We all want our students to successfully meet their goals. We know that the majority of our students have significant commitments and needs outside of the classroom, and we seek to more effectively connect students with resources and supports so that they can learn and persist. Finally, you will see within the operational plan that some strategies are already marked as complete. Here are two examples. We have redesigned our website to align with the new students' pathway structure. And these updated advising materials have been featured and promoted on our social media accounts and website platforms. We have also successfully facilitated the distribution of CARES Act funding to students in need of support. Those are just some examples of the updates that you'll find in our strategic plan and our operational plan. And I'll pause here regarding any questions regarding changes to those plans.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. On the new objectives, how are the KPIs going to be defined for those two new objectives? The post-COVID support and the equity objectives.
When it comes to the post-COVID support, I think that most closely aligns with our strategic enrollment management work. So we have some specific KPIs in that plan that will need to be brought forward and reflected in the overall assessment of that objective. There's also an objective regarding continuing education, and that's more of an activity objective. Are we collecting the information that we need to look at trends in student success for CE? So that's going to be more activity-based rather than a numeric KPI. But in regards to the COVID response, and then also we have an objective regarding equity, that will be the work of the new DEI committee to develop KPIs.
So specifically around the post-COVID support, because we're talking about connecting, re-engaging, and providing supports. And in my words, that is getting them back into the classroom, getting them back into their program of study. So when will we see, I mean, with a short time left on this current plan, when will we see those KPIs that staff is recommending and where we are in that process?
This past December, we provided a presentation on our SEM plan. The leadership of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management is seeking to engage a consultant to help us look at our strategies overall. So our plan is to have another workshop on that topic in the spring, in April or May, when we can talk about those KPIs specific to COVID recovery.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm concerned about the delay in that conversation. I'm not saying you're not doing the work, but the delay in us understanding the resources and how we evaluate our success in connecting and re-engaging those students. And if it's delayed between now September and not really hearing any more detail about it until April and May, is that really time for us to sufficiently understand and provide any questions and oversight in that process?
So if I may,
Sure. Yes, please.
add something, please, to that, and it goes back to our commission work. I think that is going to be a whole revolutionary change in the way we assess the student outcomes and how we position our services. As the conversation is going at the commission, and I'm preaching to one of the choir directors here, but I'm just sharing this with everybody, and I know she knows this, and I know we're talking about this, is the whole idea is that we would shift a preponderance of strategies, or could shift a preponderance of our strategies that would shift towards an outcomes basis versus an inputs basis. And so that would dramatically change the way we serve students. It's in effect the way we're doing things now, but because of the model, frankly, that the state has us under, we continue to be an enrollment front-end driven process. They're looking to change all of that. So we have to time all that. Patricia, there you are. I was looking for you, getting the nod. We have to time all that, but at the same time, there are no certainties as to what will come from these from this legislative session. So we've got our hands full. But Patricia, I'm interested. I was looking for you.
Ms. Scott, we currently have an initial strategic enrollment management plan that we have been working, provided an initial update in May, and we need time to work that plan. We are continuing to do all our enrollment outreach efforts to engage students to come back, whether it is come back physically or come back online. Engagement is engagement. So we are working the plan.
But then to answer the request and your question is how do we talk about this sooner? How do we demonstrate it sooner? We do have an enrollment update. That's a smaller topic, generally speaking, in October.
Well, it's really within the language that we have used on the strategic plan about here's our starting point, here's our threshold, here's our target. And so those are the pieces that we've not talked specifically about those COVID students. Yes, we've talked about it in the strategic enrollment plan, but you have to have thought about KPIs related to this as you were suggesting the changes and the potential new objective.
Yep.
And so that's the piece that I want to understand, and I don't want to wait until April or May to understand that piece.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing the question. And so let us think this through more than a few minutes and hear and now that it's on all of our collective minds here, we will come back with something much sooner. And see how we shape up the October report in conjunction with that. I know they're not the same things necessarily.
Because the reality is that the commission's work is going to impact our next strategic plan more than it's going to impact the current strategic plan.
True, and that's the idea behind shifting right now in short term, actually talking about what we're doing. I think putting that on the table, demonstrating that to you all as the board, I think is the imperative here. Not putting a whole lot, quote, putting a whole lot of work into the changing the current strategic plan, because again, we are building a new one as well. Those are just my initial thoughts. That's not resolving anything here today, but we are taking notes all over, and I'm sure we can come back with a plan and report back as soon as next month.
And
then
the
I've got a couple
SEM plan is really structured to be aligned with this work, so we didn't add additional KPIs. However, we're always looking at how we're doing in the lens of COVID recovery, but specifically within the SEM, we have very specific KPIs that are designed to work in conjunction with the overall strategic plan indicators.
The thing that we have been doing that I think is lending itself to the commission conversations is around credit and non-credit students. We have always tracked them all, granted in different ways, but we have always tracked all of our continuing education, contract, credit, and non-credit students. And the state at the higher education level is now having that conversation, and those data points will be will be part of that, and I'm glad to say that is definitely a part of the commission's recommendations. The other pieces of this that I just want to comment, and then certainly have other regions who have comments as well. I appreciate the onboarding objective change around simplifying that process. Let's not put obstacles in the way of people who say they want to come here. And then the other piece I heard about and didn't really fully understand was this Texas transfer framework. And I don't know if other regions understand what that is, but I didn't really until yesterday, that there is this work being done through the coordinating board to ensure these pathways and to ensure the receiving institution is actually giving our students credit for all of the work. And so there's that framework and that attention around that is happening at the state level as well. So those were the comments and questions that I had. Are there other comments and questions from other regions? All right.
All
great.
right. Thank you for your questions and your comments. That concludes the discussion of the current strategic plan. And now, the exciting part, the launch of the new planning cycle. I'm going to hand the floor over to my colleague, Dr. Sydney Somby. She's the Director of Accreditation and Assessment, and she's going to be describing the first half of the process.
Good morning, Regents. Dr. Escamilla, Mr. Rivera. So, as we know, the work of assessment and planning is continuous. As you can see on the now familiar SCUP illustration on the bottom of the slide, as one cycle ends, another begins. In the case of strategic planning, the halfway mark of the current 5-year strategic plan signals the beginning of the development of the next 5-year plan. The Office of Planning and Institutional Effectiveness has mapped the 18-month process to develop the next plan, which will officially launch with the unveiling of a public-facing webpage in January 2023. This webpage will include the details of stakeholder engagement opportunities. Those stakeholders will include the Strategic Planning Steering Committee, students, faculty and staff members, community members, and of course, the board. We will present the plan to the Board of Regents for your approval June 2024. As we develop a new strategic plan, we have to consider both internal and external factors. Higher education and our work at Del Mar College does not occur in a vacuum. As a result, provided here is just a few of the bigger considerations that we are facing. Notice that more than half of these items were not even part of our common vernacular when we developed our current strategic plan. Worth noting, though, is that the two items, effective teaching and learning and strategic enrollment management, have remained a constant consideration. In other words, while Del Mar College is subject to the changes in our wider environment and community, our focus on student success remains a constant. This slide provides an overview of the 4 phases of the plan development and the activities within each. We could put a big red "You Are Here" sticker on the first item for fall 2022, the Board of Regents workshop for launching the new plan. We're doing it, y'all. Phase 2 is the launch, environmental scan, and analysis process. We will announce that the new plan is underway with the community-facing website devoted to the development of the new plan. We will also, in the Office of Planning and Institutional Effectiveness, as well as the Strategic Planning Steering Committee, host surveys and focus groups to understand the priorities and challenges of many of the members of our college community. This is going to be part of Phase 2. With the analysis of the information we gathered, we will transition to Phase 3, in which we will be writing, refining, and presenting drafts of the new strategic plan, culminating with a board workshop to present our final draft and obtain feedback from all of you. Finally, Phase 4, we will present the revised final draft for the board approval, close out the 2019-2024 plan, and begin the implementation of the 2024-2029 plan. The next slides will detail the opportunities for key stakeholders to be involved in the plan development at each phase. First, the Strategic Planning Steering Committee. This semester, as part of the planning phase, we will create the committee roster, which will include faculty, staff, administrators, and student representatives. Meetings will begin with onboarding members and training them on strategic planning development. As we transition into phase 2, the launch, environmental scan, and analysis phase in the summer of 2023, the committee will partner with the Faculty Development Committee to help to develop the content for Summer Academy. Steering committee members will also facilitate sessions and host courageous conversations with Academy attendees about their priorities and concerns for the college. Next fall, in phase 3, the committee will focus on the detailed work of taking all the input from our stakeholder groups and turning it into the first draft of the 2024-2029 strategic plan. Throughout the remainder of the process, the committee will solicit feedback and help to steer the refining and revisions of each draft of the plan. Are there any questions at this point? Okay. If not, up next, Dr. Carlos Garenzway, Manager of Institutional Effectiveness and Assessment, will provide an overview of the involvement of our other key stakeholders.
Thank you, Dr. Sambi. Good morning, everyone. So now a deeper dive into our other stakeholders. One of the campus subcommittees, the Strategic Planning Steering Committee, will seek input from are those we are charged with serving, the students. As indicated in ongoing activities, student representation will be incorporated within the steering committee, while direct engagement from the larger student population will occur in phase 2. Initial engagements project to be in the form of online surveys, followed later by face-to-face focus groups conducted from late spring through summer of 2023. Faculty and staff are critical to the strategic plan development process. Our phase 2 engagements are similar to those with our student subcommunity. In partnership with the Faculty Development Committee, we will develop content for the 2023 Summer Academy. Then, in phase 3, we want to collect feedback regarding the strategic plan drafts, which would have been crafted during fall of 2023. Progress and momentum of these steps will require the consistent advocacy of our internal councils listed under ongoing activities. We also plan to incorporate perspectives from our external stakeholders. This group includes, but is not exclusive to, local school districts and other institutions of higher education, the business community, community influencers, and local industry leaders. Here, we see these engagements initiated in the spring of 2023, or phase 3, followed by our more targeted focus groups in the fall. The solicitation of feedback for the newly drafted strategic plan will come in the spring of 2024. The board's participation runs the full length of the process, beginning with today's presentation. As we move into phase 2, we will have 2 workshops scheduled for next semester, both of which inform on 2 considerations mentioned by Dr. Sambi. A third presentation is planned for the summer of next calendar year based on the Finance Commission's recommendations. In phase 3, we have 2 more workshops, one focusing on internal data and trends, the other on crafting our foundational markers of cultural identity, our mission and vision statements, and our core values. It is at this point we will offer a near final draft of the new plan as well. In phase 4, we aim to have the final draft of the new strategic plan reviewed and approved during the summer of 2024. The last piece of transition from our current strategic plan to our new strategic plan is a Phase 4 Fall 2024 workshop reviewing the progress gained and lessons learned from fulfilling the 5 years guided by the current 2019-2024 strategic plan, Aspire, Engage, Achieve. So now that we told you what we were going to tell you, and we've told you what we were going to tell you, we're going to review what we told you to begin with.
Before we do the review, can we
Absolutely.
go back? I have a couple of questions. Two questions. One, you said a little bit about engaging ISD leadership in our community engagement, and I'm curious, because that represents such a large part of our enrollment, do we have some specific plans around our dual credit faculty as well as our dual credit students?
Those considerations are going to be brought in. We don't have any specific plans yet because we do need to be able to flesh out who all those populations are going to be. Dr. Wilson?
No, that's correct. That's an excellent recommendation to make sure that we include them.
Yeah, they're such an important part of our overall student body, and certainly understanding how we continue to connect those students who don't complete high school with an associate's degree, how we make sure that they continue with something. So
The tricky part of that is engaging students under the age of 18, but
Right.
we'll certainly, that's something we can certainly consider, bringing them in for parent improved focus groups or surveys, but certainly the staff and the faculty that work with them.
absolutely. And then on the board piece, I want us to understand in the spring of '23 kind of everything that's going to be happening potentially. We'll have onboarded 2 new regents between December of '22 and in spring of '23. We've got the Board of Trustees Institute. So let's think about the sequencing of those activities and how we have that conversation. You know, one new board member represents a new board, and so. But how do we make sure that we are helping everyone track along with that? And then on top of that, there are new officers, and potentially the board will be doing its own self-evaluation and action plan work as well. So I think we need to be, between Dr. Escamilla and the leadership team and what you all are planning, let's really think about the sequencing of topics and how that happens so that there's a cohesive feel to all of that, and the board's self-evaluation and what we have conversations about could easily slide into this formal strategic planning process as well.
Yeah. One of the things, Mr. Garcia, this really is going to change things. That one of the proposals, or part of the overarching proposal from the commission, is that the biennial look at our budgeting process will not be the same at all, and it could be a year-to-year change. And as I look at this calendar, that comes to mind. And we're conventionally set to think of base year. How many times have you all heard me say base year? Too many. I get it. But the whole notion of base year could be gone. It could be changed entirely. And so I add that because I want to send that message out as soon as possible to the team to say, as we're watching the development of the commission and its recommendations, we got to be ready for that. Because see, we could be planning and doing all these things with conventional wisdom and thought and expectations and everything else. And next year this time we're going to be looking at each other and say, where'd the base year go? Where did this go? It's not a 2-year outlook anymore. It's going to go back. The recommendation right now is that it's going to be a 1-year outlook. And so how is that going to change our planning, Dr. Sambi? I'm seeing you nod back there with wide eyes. And so lots and lots of things to be anticipated.
I just wanted to note, that's why summer '23, we plan to have a presentation about the recommendations to ensure that we've not forgotten the potential changes.
You're anticipating what is there. And so from all aspects, not just our planning, I mean, we're going to have to get together and sit down and look at this. I'm preparing a staff meeting to do just that here in coming weeks so that we can let you know what we know, as Dr. Gadenswai is saying. Thank you for that opportunity.
Absolutely, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Communication is going to be so vital, and that's why we left the footprints of semester-long windows to be able to have some of that flexibility to be able to adjust as we gather more information, and not just specifically say, this is going to be our deadline. If the commission comes in with more information that's going to change those things, we want to have that time window to be flexible and sensitive to that.
And to make things even more fun, it's going to be an ongoing process. It's going to be an ongoing iterative process and going back and forth and serving on committees and doing this and doing that and adjustments, just like SB3 has done for the K through 12 world. We keep hearing their references and learning from their track record of continued improvement and so forth. So stay tuned.
Absolutely.
Are there other questions and comments for the planning team? If we do, I'm not saying speak now and forever hold your peace, because there's lots of opportunities to talk about strategic plan and at our board meetings, but just let's give feedback now if we have any.
And certainly if there's something else that comes up today, tomorrow, tonight, whatever, just feel free to reach out to me. Glad to answer any questions and resolve those things.
And we're happy to maintain that fluidity. Thank you for that availability. Here you can see the full representation of all the phases of development for the next strategic plan. We are not done with the current strategic plan, and it will serve as a valuable source of data to inform the next strategic plan's development and life cycle. So this is the fuller picture of that in review of what Dr. Sambi had presented earlier, just to be able to see all the phases and all the different engagement stakeholder groups involved. If there are no more further questions, I invite Dr. Wilson back to discuss the current plan in further detail, specifically the key performance indicators or KPIs. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sambi and Dr. Gadenswai. We really are excited about this next process, and absolutely we're going to need to pivot if we need to, but it is a rigorous 18-month process, and we're excited to get started. We're going to have a website, we're going to make it as inclusive as we can be, and hopefully build upon the great work that we've already done. All right, this brings us to the final part of this workshop, which is on our key performance indicators. Today we'll be highlighting a subset of KPIs from Goal 1 completion. Though we are beginning the next planning cycle, just want to make sure, we've said it several times today, the work on the current plan will not end. And I want to make sure that you're aware of some of the processes that we have in place and that will continue to be in place as we embark on the next planning cycle. Every year, my office produces 3 different reports on our strategic planning activities. The first is called a Snapshot Report, and you have a copy of that in your meeting packet for year 3. This report includes the annual data for all KPIs. It includes our data alone without analysis or description of efforts made for KPIs. It's just straight data. That's a Snapshot Report. We also produce a Student Achievement Report, which includes just a subset of our KPIs, which focus on student achievement. The report includes our analysis of the data and a description of our efforts to reach our targets. This report is published publicly on our DMC website and is required by our accreditor, SAC-COC. Finally, we produce an annual progress report, which includes updates on all of our institutional strategies. Data and progress updates are collected from each department on how each strategy is progressing, and that's collected into one report. So again, this work will not end as we begin the work on the next plan, and it's going to get a little tricky. We've been focusing on KPIs for a while as part of this workshop, so we will continue to provide you with updates on KPIs while also focusing on the next 5 years at Del Mar College. All right, let's look at the first KPI, number of degrees and certificates awarded by credit programs each year. The targets for this KPI are aligned with the state's prior strategic plan, 60 by 30 TX. At this time, we have not received guidance on tangible updates to the strategic plan targets. So we're keeping them as is for now, ready to pivot when needed. Our thresholds and targets are color-coded. In 2021, we did not meet our thresholds for all students or for African American students. Here is a visual representation of our 5-year trends. Over the past 5 years, we have seen a 2.7% increase in the number of degrees and certificates awarded. This rate of increase is lower than that of our large college peers at 7.2% and lower than the rate of overall increase by all Texas colleges at 5.1%. I need to point out that this slide depicts duplicated number of degrees and certificates awarded. If a student earns multiple awards in a year, then they are counted twice. So this next slide is an answer to a question I've been asked by the board a few times. Dr. Wilson, if that's duplicated, what's unduplicated? So what you're looking at here is the number of students that earn credit degrees and certificates each year, unduplicated. As you can see, the number of students earning degrees and certificates has really remained consistent over the last 5 years. And we typically have 200, 300, sometimes 400 students that earn duplicate awards and certificates, but this is number of students credit awards. Now, let's go back and look at duplicated degrees and certificates awarded data, which is what the state monitors. Here's a visual representation of our 5-year trends with the data disaggregated by gender. Last year, we noted that for the first time, females earned fewer degrees and certificates than males. This trend has reversed itself in 2021. Additionally, the rate of increase for males and females has been about the same during this time period. Here is a visual representation of our 5-year trends with data disaggregated by ethnicity. During the last 5-year period, the number of degrees and certificates awarded to Hispanic students has increased by 13.4%, the number awarded to white students has decreased by 4.7%, and the number awarded to African American students has decreased by almost 55%. We need to take a deeper dive into our data to determine why the number of degrees and certificates awarded to African American and white students has decreased.
And I guess when you do, could you give us some feedback? Is this consistent with enrollment of those population groups as well?
Mm-hmm.
So is there a disproportionate increase or decrease based on the percentage of students? I'm probably not asking that correctly.
No,
Dr.
we
Villarreal, help me, but
yes,
do you understand what I'm asking?
I understand what you mean, and this is just the beginning. I'm really hoping that, I know you're going to get an update on DEI, but I'm hoping that the committee can take a robust look at our data and see where the equity differences are. But you're absolutely right. Is this a reflection of who's enrolling, or is this truly a reflection of ways in which we are not serving these groups adequately? According to our stat profile, it has not changed much for African American students.
It's also so many things, so many alarms are going off on this one as it is with everybody out here, and I know that. But I do know there are some statewide trends that we are following for whatever reason. That's the great work that's in front of us, because we have to improve these numbers.
Here's a visual representation of our 5-year trends for economically disadvantaged students. These are students as defined by the state as students who receive Pell at any time. During the last 5-year period, the number of degrees and certificates awarded to economically disadvantaged students has increased by 7.9%. I'll pause here for any questions. Which is a good thing, a very good thing. This slide provides a summary of the completion certificates issued by our continuing education programs during the past 5 years in the areas of healthcare, safety, and industrial certifications. We experienced a dip in completions in 2020, 2021, but these numbers are now on the rise again. Are there any questions regarding our continuing education programs?
I'd just like to add a thought one of the thoughts that has been occurring to me as we've been analyzing this fall's enrollment and trending still, one of the things that we need to be watching for is how our own programs are taking from our own programs in some ways. Our CE enrollment by contact hour produced, I think we were up 12%. It was 12% of the total contact hour production, and that was the highest level, I think, at one point. So in many ways, what's happening, I'm getting out over there, Raul, you know where I'm going with this one, you and I have talked about it, is our CE programs are taking from our credit programs, primarily, and not only, but primarily at the dual credit level, because of the numbers of students that Dr. Leonard and team are enrolling. So think about that. So our credit enrollment could be showing, flat to negative a point, 2, or whatever the deal is. But meanwhile, and Patricia, you and I were talking about this last week, fresh out of vacation, man, I'll tell you what, for 8 o'clock in the morning, right? We were saying this. You're welcome, Patricia. The CE opportunities there are so inclusive, and the opportunities for those students and to take those classes are so readily available and accessible that it's taken. So the rest of the story, the tale of the tale, has yet to be told on enrollment for fall. Again, I think perfect alignment, perfect positioning as we move into the recommendations on how the state is going to redo and reevaluate things, reexamine and assess all of our data as well. So be thinking about that, about how our own programs are balancing, if you would, our student populations in both CE and credit. Thank you for that opportunity.
Okay. The next KPI is graduation rates. So this is different from what we looked at before in that this looks at graduations over time. It starts with a cohort of students. It looks particularly at a cohort of students. This is full-time, first-time in college students. And really, even though this is a subset of our student population, cohort tracking is a really effective way to see how our students are progressing and how long it's taking them to meet their goals. Okay, the graduation rates reflect the percentage of students who started in a given fall semester and who graduated from Del Mar College or any other Texas public college during the time frames listed. We have met our thresholds for our 4-year and our 6-year graduation rates. We have also already met our target for 2024 for our 6-year graduation rate. We fell short of our threshold for our 3-year graduation rate, and as you can see on the slide, we've also included the average graduation rate of our large college peers. Here's a visual representation of our 5-year trends. Our thresholds and targets are described on the right-hand side. We have experienced an upward trend in our 6-year rate. It's looking a little bit more in line with where we want to see it. We want to see it higher than the others. Our 4-year rate has remained relatively stable, and our 3-year rate has fluctuated, ranging from 14% to 18%. I'll pause here for any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is this only the first time in college full-time students?
Yes, sir.
How many are there normally?
500. 500.
So it's about 5%?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And so that is very important to keep in mind, Regent Bennett. This is just a small subset. However, this is a very important indicator when tracking how are students progressing. And even though it does limit us within community colleges, it provides that marker to see how we're doing as compared to others. And if the students who typically, as the state and also IPEDS, Department of Education define, students that start in the fall semester full-time are more likely to complete and progress.
And do we have the same measurement for the other 95% of students?
No, we do not, because this is cohort-based. I think we could look We could create our own measure of first time in college. We have to create a starting point and then track it that way. But when it comes to this cohort-based tracking, the state, the federal governments, they usually look at FTICs, either full-time or all FTICs. In just a minute, we're going to talk about time to degree. Time to associate degree, so that's another measurement. Instead of looking at where a student starts, we look at where a student ends, a student who's earned an associate degree, and then go backwards and find that average. But we do not, as an institution, compile our own rate, our own graduation rate.
I think that would be good information to have, just my opinion.
Thank you. It's a good idea.
This is one of those areas where what the state commission is recommending and the data around the potential outcomes-based funding is going to be really important for us to understand as a college. To have, to be moving from contact hour funding as the primary source of funding from the state to outcomes-based funding for completion of degrees and certificates for credit and non-credit students. So completion or success, or I'm going to say successful transfer, completion or transfer are going to be the two primary measures that the state is going to fund on if the recommendations of the commission go forward. So it wouldn't be just based on full-time, first-time full-time students. It would be based on all students, regardless of their part-time or full-time status. And we wouldn't get funded for progress. We would get funded for completion in both the credit and non-credit, and then transfer with some higher weights for what they're going to determine as in-demand fields. So regional and state in-demand fields. So this potential measure for us that has always been difficult because it only tracks a small number of students. We still might have to track that for federal data purposes, but from a state standpoint, this particular measure is not going to be as instructive for us in the future because it's going to be based on credit and non-credit students of any kind and their completion numbers.
Yeah, no, ditto. It's going to change, and I think as you're presenting this, Dr. Wilson, our team is going to have to come together and get ahead of this. We can't wait until next year. Our team cannot wait till the end of the legislative session to start sketching, drawing out, anticipating what we may look like next year in terms of operations and preparing to assess in a whole different way. Mm-hmm. There's going to cause major shifts, and so we're going to have to get on that as a team just as quickly as we can.
The other additional weights, the good news is the other additional weights will be for completion of degrees or certificates for credit or non-credit students with additional weights for academically disadvantaged students, economically disadvantaged students, or adult students who are returning to college, all of whom are the students that we serve. Not all of whom, but a vast majority of our students could fit one of those three descriptions. So there will be additional weights in that outcome funding, understanding that those three categories of students require additional supports, whether they're basic service kinds of supports or academic supports. So there is good news in that regard as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to capture, but I think as I can help inform what our future discussions might be, this is one of those areas, again, that's always been challenging because it's based on such a limited number of students.
I'm glad that you're describing that the state is moving away from this marker, and it's a little controversial because this does look like such a small subset. One other piece I'd like to add to this is that there are external agencies such as the Aspen Institute for College Excellence, that even though this is a small subset, this is a marker of excellence. And so even if this does not make it into our next strategic plan, it's something that we may need to continue if we're going to continue to pursue high levels of excellence. All right, now let's look at time and semester credit hours to associate degree. These KPIs measure the average length of time in years and the average attempted semester credit hours to complete an associate degree. Unlike most of the other indicators that we're looking at today, our goal is to decrease these numbers. In 2021, the college met the threshold for both indicators. And one thing I want to keep in mind, I mention it every time, is that these numbers do not reflect any dual credit hours taken or any developmental coursework taken. Here's a visual representation of average time to associate degree for the past 5 years. Our rates have remained consistent. We've discussed before that our students are enrolled primarily on a part-time basis. We know this. However, that is the case at most community colleges. So we do seek to reduce students' time to degree to more closely align with state averages. Currently, our students take, on average, an additional year to complete an associate degree as compared to the state. Research shows that the longer a student is enrolled, the less likely they are to complete their goal. So it is on us to make sure that our students are making the right choices as quickly as they can, giving them that support so they can explore in an environment that allows them to pick their correct major and either join the workforce or continue on their educational path. Here's a visual representation of our average semester credit hour to degree for the past 5 years. We have had consistent decreases in recent years, and we are getting closer to meeting the state and cohort averages. For reference, associate degrees require students to complete 60 semester credit hours. So we want to get closer to 60, but we're happy if we're closer to the state average. Again, these attempted hours do not include any dual credit coursework taken or developmental coursework taken. I'll pause here for any questions.
I have a quick question. I know in some of our previous meetings we've discussed the importance of counseling and advocates for students, and as you're going through this and you're talking about students who maybe are taking a little bit longer of time, what type of protocol or process do you all have in place to identify those particular students that you see are struggling? The everyday student that might sort of fall through the cracks if somebody doesn't sort of pull them in and talk to them.
Sure. The focus of the college's quality enhancement plan, our QEP, is advising, all about advising. So the past few years, we've been hiring additional staff advisors, and we've also been training our faculty advisors. Our faculty do quite a bit of advising. So that's part of what we're doing, is making sure that our trained advisors have the knowledge and the skills to help students who are in that situation. Additionally, our leaders in the student enrollment and student affairs areas, they do look to see who are our students who are nearing completion who haven't graduated, and they're specifically targeted. You look and you see they've accumulated these hours, no degree, no credential, let's talk to them. So we're doing both things. Great question.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do we know, is it 70% of the students that have to take developmental courses? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, sir, you are.
And do we know the average number of hours our students are taking for developmental courses?
I'm ready this time, Regent Bennett. You asked me this one last year. It's 12 hours on average.
Okay, and they average about 7 hours per semester. Am I correct on that?
Yes, you are. I'm sorry you're not here. We have a new stat profile for you here. We'll make sure to get that to you.
Actually, I have it.
Oh, good. Excellent.
So they're almost a full year behind with the average of 12. If they're taking 12 hours on average and they're averaging 7 hours per semester, they're almost spending a full year on average with developmental courses. Is that about correct?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Not a question, but I think this is one of the places where we will internally, regardless of what the state or the feds have us look at, I think this will have to continue to be a focus for us, because to get to completion in a reasonable time frame, this is the marker. And so what are we doing to help our students progress efficiently through that process? Time, whether they choose to go full-time or part-time, is not always in our control. Maybe with additional financial aid and other kinds of supports, we might be able to impact that. This piece is the one that I am most concerned about, and for the reasons that Regent Bennett has expressed over the years. The waste of resources for our students is just tremendous to graduate with that many, or to complete with that many additional semester credit hours.
We love them, but we want them to fly. We want them to meet
Absolutely.
their goals. Yeah.
This goes to the other nomenclature that's being used at the commission, and it's stackable and my brain's tired from yesterday's drive home. Stackable and what's the other word? Oh, gosh.
Micro-credentials?
No, it's a stackable and transferable, basically, is what they're talking about of these CE units. In other words, to help these students, and I'm speaking with my CTE lead cap, or the workforce education cap that I had at the commission. They're talking about stackable and transferable. So they're stackable and, oh my goodness, I should have this tattooed up in here. And it's the versatility of the CE classes and so forth, so that when these students move on and matriculate through and start off on the CE side, that they can move to completion, so that they're not asked to go and repeat classes on the CTE side, and so that those convertible and stackable courses will help in this fashion. So whether it's a transfer student and getting them through developmental ed and getting them ready and moving them as quickly through, and that's what we're talking about largely here. There's the other side of the house, if you will, on that CTE side, where the stackability and convertibility, I found it, Madam Chair, stackability and convertibility of those credits will assist in that time to completion as well. And so I share that because that is not a small matter. That is a pillar, one of the underpinnings of what is going on at the conversation at the commission. Thank you.
Dr. Wilson, quick question.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
assuming that the stats that you just described regarding developmental ed, and I asked this question without intending blame at all. Are they stats that we share with our local ISDs? I'm very grateful that we're here to help with that developmental ed. And I'm sure it's something that the ISDs are concerned about as well. But do we share that data with them too?
I do believe so. I'm going to turn around and see because our Vice President of Student Affairs, she's the one who leads those conversations, so I'll ask her to respond.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, we do. We do. When we're going to be having our later on this month, our counselor update. We do share that with all the counselors and with the leadership with all the school districts. We are also having a principals meeting with CCISD, our #1 ISD that comes into our feeder schools from CCISD that come to Del Mar. And yes, they are aware of it. Always the conversation is about that data point and the CCMR data point, which is a data point from the ISD part. So yes, it's robust conversations.
And I understand that there is a lot that goes into, an individual being prepared to come to college, and I'm not trying to place blame. Are those folks, though, are they receptive to the conversation? Do they share our concern about that?
Yes, we did have a robust conversation last month regarding the college and career readiness courses that during the high school senior year that they can take, but it's an option on the student side for them to participate in that year-long course, so when they exit high school, they can jump into college credit level math and reading, and they have, but there is a, they have to do that within the first year upon graduating from high school. So that if they don't access upon high school graduation, or they don't choose to take English, or sometimes students avoid taking college level math, that's also part of the conversation.
Thank you.
So this just goes back, and it just reminds me of all the reasons why we're trying to widen accessibility for these students. And here I go back to our continuing education side, because there are so many perceived obstacles. Okay, they are not obstacles, they're opportunities. We see them as services. We have, like Dr. Christina was saying, we love every one of them. We want them all to come here. We want to give them all a big hug and bring them into the college. But they're perceived obstacles. That when you start throwing up TSTI, I had a kid in my living room the other day. I had to sit him down and say, no, you're not going to go out tonight. You're going to sit down and talk to me first. Poor kid. Anyway, because they're perceived obstacles. They have no idea. And if you think of the steps to move into the credit curriculum, be it CTE and or transfer, that, what we would probably see as a simple process, is a nightmare to them, and it continues to be. What am I saying? So what I'm saying is, on these other types of options that do not have the barriers, perceived barriers that the credit side has, we're able to reach out to these students as quickly as we can and give them something, some sort of basis as early as possible. And I'm advocating for even earlier at the state level, to reach out to these kids, to give them, put them in a classroom with some sort of contextualized learning opportunity of something, just so we can get their attention, to have the conversation and move them through, perhaps even have a bit of success. It's a developmental process of a different sort that's built into our curriculum, and that bar is widening for access. That's what I'm really, really, really excited about, because like a sweet kid that was in my living room the other day, and he's just pushing it off. He's just pushing everything off, and developmental ed's in front of him, and then all this other. It's overwhelming to him still.
So this may be an unfair question, but do we know our students who are in developmental ed, do we know if they have come straight to us from high school, or if they've taken some time off and then come back? Because Lord knows if I went back, I would need some developmental ed in certain areas.
I think that's something we certainly need to look at. We don't know. We don't know at this point. Another complicating factor is that there is a new exam that was recently implemented in 2020, so right in the middle of the pandemic. I know that the timing is not wise, but that, I think that is something that we certainly need to look at, but we don't know that right now.
And the new TSI 2.0, I call it, is proving more difficult. The timing is very bad for that, and it's seemingly more, again, new and difficult, and the pass rates are lower, if I'm not mistaken. I'm getting the nods from Dr. Sambi. That's good. And then the other thing too is, but one of the things I want to be cautious with is, not 70% of our students do not take 12 hours. 70% of our students take some dual credit. It may be 3, it may be 6, it may be 12. So that's
the average.
12 may be the average, but I'm just saying, okay, that's an average, and I get it, and I know there are others and we have limitations on that too, but many of those students are taking, and it's usually college algebra.
It's usually math.
Math is the first one.
And our instructional areas are seeking to look at ways that we can get students into their college level coursework as quickly, and also not just quickly, but they need to be prepared. So there are innovations that the state is recommending, such as looking at other measures to prove college readiness. It may not all be about the test. We all know that tests are not perfect. They're not for everybody. So there's ways in which the state is recommending that we look at how they did in high school. There's some other accelerated paths, because sometimes you just need a little refresher as opposed to a whole course sequence. So our instructional programs are looking at ways that we can address that. And in fact, we also we submitted a application for a grant to look specifically at onboarding our students and getting them into credit classes more expeditiously. So hopefully we'll have some additional funds for that.
Just a couple of comments also, and I certainly understand when Dr. Escamilla talked about sometimes we look at them as challenges or roadblocks that are happening. I think we're also dealing with, it's a culture. I mean, we've always operated in our K-12 system and then our higher ed system. And even though we say that we try to align and we work on that, and I think you all are doing an outstanding job with that, and I'm really pleased with that. I love when I hear all of that. But we still have college staff, and I don't necessarily, I'm talking statewide, national-wide, I'm not talking Del Mar, that still feel like I want to teach college students. I do not want to teach high school students, a 9th grader or a 10th grader. So you have different cultures and different environments and different thoughts from each organization that need to be merged. And that's a very difficult thing to do. It's hard to do just in one organization, but to do it with another organization. And the last thing I was gonna just ask, because I really don't know this, and I thought that would be, for me, do you all have students that come to Del Mar? And then do you all have teachers that go to the school districts? Which do you have more of?
We have both. We have definitely lots of college personnel, instructors that go out and teach at the high school sites. Thus, we have Sydney to help us with all the SACS requirements that
Yes.
that happen at many of the ISDs that are reaching a certificate level 1 potential or beyond. And also we do through JONDA and the academic chairs credential on-site ISD personnel that are qualified to teach those core subjects.
Have you all seen is there any type of data or any type of research on success and students that actually leave their district and come onto a campus and actually experience college life, whether it's at a university or in our case here at Del Mar? Do y'all have anything? I think that when students are removed and they sort of get a complete different feel for college life, it sets the stage for them for the future years to say, I want to stay at Del Mar and finish up. I don't know if y'all have anything like
well,
that.
fortunately, with the relationship that we have with CCISD and the Collegiate High School and Harold T. Branch, you know, that was the impetus to have more ISDs to want to have the students to have a more comprehensive experience with us. Prime example is Flower Bluff ISD,
Yes.
Hornet Academy. Their belief, the leadership belief was that students pursuing any kind of dual credit hours, a third would be with their ISD staff that are credentialed, another third would have the online experience with our faculty, and the other third of their program of study, they have been busing to our east or west camp or our campuses, and other ISDs are similar in that regard as well.
I think that's excellent, and you, especially after we toured the OSO buildings. I mean, that is just such an unbelievable place to learn, and just the environment to be exposed to that, I think, would really encourage a student to want to stay and so forth. Thank you. Thanks for answering that.
Great discussion. Now let's talk about transfer. This indicator looks at the transfer rate of FTIC students over a 6-year period. Not full-time FTICs, we're looking at part-time and full-time, and that's typically around 1,200 to 1,300 students. To get our 2021 transfer rate, the state tracks the 2015 FTIC cohort. Again, it's a 6-year rate. In 2021, we did meet our threshold. Included in the table is the large Texas colleges cohort for comparison. The state also looks at the percentage of students who completed a credential but did not transfer, referred to here as non-transfer completers. Del Mar College had 13% non-transfer completers in 2021. Here are our 5-year trends. Over the past 5 years, our rate of transfer has increased slightly. We are aiming for a 17% transfer rate by 2024, and the state average rates are also included on this slide. As you can see, we are seeking to increase the rate of student transfer. And just for some context, within our credit student population, over half declare a transfer major. Over half. Additionally, even students who are pursuing CTE or workforce certificates or associate degrees are pathways to baccalaureate programs now. So even though they're not designated as transfer programs, we have many of our students in Davis's programs, for example, that go on to bachelor's degrees. So something to keep in mind, a lot of our students do intend to transfer.
This is again one of those areas that the commission is focusing on, and I think when we get to the potential for rulemaking, because we're not sure how much of this is going to be legislated and how much is the authority is going to be given to the coordinating board to do rulemaking on. But the successful transfer to a four-year institution is one of those outcome-based funding points for us. And whether or not it will be based on first-time in college students, whether or not we'll get credit for dual credit students who successfully go straight from high school to a four-year institution, and potentially what this looks like for students who restart higher education, like many of ours do, and then eventually transfer, whether they complete with us or transfer as a non-completer. So that rulemaking piece is something that we're going to have to stay in close contact with and really understand the implications of that for our students and for the institution, because quite frankly, we do all of the above. And so how do we help our students and get credit for the work that we're doing for students in all of those categories? So this is one that we don't have as clear a picture on, but that transfer is going to be one of the outcome-based funding points.
Another way that we can look at transfer is to look at the number of all students that transfer each year. So this is not a cohort-based approach, as we just saw on the previous slides. This includes number of students transferring on any given year. Of the students enrolled in the 2019-2020 academic year, over 1,900 transferred to a four-year institution by the following fall. This does include dual credit students. We'll look specifically at dual credit in just a minute. 294 students transferred to another community college, and 20 Del Mar College graduates re-enrolled at Del Mar College. Of the 1,929 students who transferred, over 1,500 of them transferred before completing a credential at Del Mar College. So their intention was to get started and then transfer. This demonstrates that not every student seeks to earn a degree from us, but instead some choose to start their college careers with us and transfer when they're ready. Our top transfer institutions are also included on this slide. Are there any questions?
I just think that point, Regent, is something I bring up every year. And we're talking at the state level that, when the verbiage is such that they talk about successful transfers for our students, those students that take 30 hours, 40 hours, go to the great universities throughout the state and beyond, is a success. I would argue that it's a success because that's what they needed, that's what they wanted. They may have never stepped foot on our campus as a dual credit student, or they may have, you get my point. But it's 1,500 on top of the other 1,200 or 1,300, 1,400. So we're talking about the 1,500 students that leave.
1,500 out of these 1,900 didn't earn a credential when they transferred.
No credential when they transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's That's a significant number of success, in my opinion. I was one of those students too, I remember. I liked one class until I came back in 2010 as president. Then I graduated from Del Mar College.
Congratulations.
True story.
All right, let's look at our dual credit students in transfer. At the dual credit students enrolled in the 2019-2020 academic year, 714 transferred to a four-year institution by the following fall. 119 transferred to another community college and 20 re-enrolled at Del Mar College, 20 graduates. Please note that dual credit students are not counted in our transfer rates because they are not yet FTICs. They are not counted. Therefore, the 714 students who transferred are, again, not included. Are there any questions about this slide? Okay, continuing on with dual credit, let's look at their success rates. The left-hand column identifies the number of dual credit seniors enrolled during the most recent academic years. The next column lists the number and percentage of seniors earning a credit, degree, or certificate by the time they complete high school. The middle column lists the number and percentage of seniors that chose to re-enroll in Del Mar College after completing high school. And the final column lists the number and percentage of seniors earning a credit, degree, or certificate from Del Mar College within 1 year of completing high school. As you can see, these numbers are very positive and indicate that dual credit really does set our students up for good momentum moving forward. Are there any questions?
I have one. Do we have a comparison? I apologize. I should have. We've asked this question before. The number of students matriculating to DMC within 1 year of completing high school. Those are big numbers, percentage-wise. And do we have an idea? Well, let's see if we can find out what the rest of the state's doing. Because I've been asked that, and when I shared 30% at the state level, eyes were wide open.
Each school needs to track it themselves. This isn't something that the state currently tracks, but under the new strategic plan, I think it's something that they are looking at. But right now, it really isn't. It isn't anything that they have required. So this is our own internal data. So it may be hard to ask other schools. It all depends on if they track it, because this is new data for us.
Well, I knew when I raised eyebrows in Austin with this bit of information and data that somebody's tracking, maybe individually. I'll see if I can circle back, but that would be something to really hang on to. That's not a small matter there. Thank you.
All right, and our final data slide. Let's look at continuing education dual enrollment certifications earned annually. During the 2021-2022 academic year, nearly 1,300 certifications were earned by our high school students. So this is in addition to what we just saw. These are CE credentials and certifications. It's in addition to our credit certificates and associate degrees.
That's a significant increase over that 4-year period. To what, is that just better marketing? Is it obviously a better pipeline, but how did we go from not quite 400 to almost 1,300?
Well, I wish Dr. Leonard was here. Lenora, you could.
Sure, thank you. Dr. Leonard Rivera and his team through continuing education have just actively engaged numerous school districts. They've gone from a handful of school districts to over 20 to 21 school districts where they're physically providing these courses. And a lot of it has to do with the JET grants that the school districts have gotten. They now have the resources to provide these courses, the nursing simulator type resources that they had to have. And so it's group work. It's really group work.
The other thing is a very persistent and strong relationships and and a lot of persistence out there. But as since 18 and even before 2018, as laws have changed and become more conducive with this type of instruction over the years, it's just become more accessible. Funds through CCMR and other things like that dollars that are supporting at the schools. I mean, lots. It's a confluence of lots of things over time, and that evidence, I think we're tracking. Probably we're an outlier across the state for sure in this area. But what I've also heard is that all of this success is mounting and enabling just more students to with more resources than ever before. That's why we are where we are with the commission.
I think it's also important to note that you get what you track, you get what you measure. And at the school district level, they now get to give themselves credit with TEA for the credentials that their students earn. And this became one of those credentials back in 2018. So you see the school districts benefit from this too. So I think it's important to note that, and y'all are looking at data, that the data is just very important that we have it. And this is another area that the state needs to help us with data.
Excuse me. And I agreed with the comments when we talked about trying to reach the students maybe earlier and not to be critical, like Linda was saying. But it seems to me like when we're trying to improve some of the numbers or reach our threshold or target numbers, we talk about needing additional resources or putting more additional resources toward advising. And I'm thinking it's not just within the college. I mean, we've got to figure out a way to get the tools, use data, so we can go down into the high schools and figure out, hey, we're only getting 5% of our students with all the community high schools, all the community schools that we have. 5% of the population is attaining a certificate or a diploma. And that's an abysmal number. We're graduating 10,000 students, say, for instance, at the high school level, but only 500 are reaching or attaining within a certain number of years the level that we'd like for them to attain. In athletics, say, for instance, whether it be Cal Allen or Flower Bluff, a coach comes in and he looks to try to improve his program, and he starts going down to the middle school level, to the elementary school level, to figure out how he can get some of those potential athletes to start doing the things they need to do in order to be successful and to be able to contribute at the high school level in order to be able to build their programs. We've got to figure out a way with using data that's going to come from the state to figure out how students that attain and get a certificate or get an associate's degree or get some degree of training or a college degree, what is that going to do to their income level? What's that going to do to their economic position in life, and how much is it going to contribute to them? I know we have some numbers, but we don't have enough to be able to show and to be able to make the case right in our lower classroom level so that they do start working. I think we're doing great with the dual credit, and I still think that we're serving those students that probably a large percentage of them come from good economic backgrounds that are probably college bound anyway. But we've got to figure out a way to reach those students that in middle school, junior high level, don't have a hope and dream of going to college. And we've got to be able to figure out a way to flip a switch. And if it means figuring out how the state provides more advising resources at the high school, the high school and junior high levels, so that those students can then get mainstreamed into getting into dual credit, figuring out how they're going to be able to take the first full years, not take a year off or take 2 years off, and figure out what am I going to do in life, recognizing there's too much economic benefits at stake for them and for their families going forward. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that I think we need to figure out what we can do. If the coaches at the high school level only thought of improving and doing the things better at their high school and never delved into junior high or middle school, and if the middle school coaches and teachers didn't let them in, then they wouldn't have gotten anywhere with their programs. So I know I'm preaching to the choir, but
I think it's a really good point, and it goes back to what Dr. Villarreal says about the difference of cultures. I think they're doing a lot in K-12. They're doing a whole lot, but are we really doing things the same way? And what VP Keys mentioned you can't manage what you don't measure. Are we measuring the same things? Are we aligning our same goals? I think globally we are, but probably not as precisely as we could be. So I understand what you're saying in that if we want to move these cohorts forward, we can't just start when they first enter our doors. We need to make sure that we are helping our ISD partners so that we're on the same page. That's what I'm hearing from you, and
Yes,
I'm in
thank you.
agreement.
Okay.
All right. This brings us to the conclusion of the workshop. Our next steps are to continue implementing and monitoring progress on our current strategic plan. We will officially launch the new planning cycle in January of 2023. This fall, we will train and onboard our strategic planning committee. And finally, the next strategic planning board workshop will take place in the spring with the potential for maybe additional workshops as we discussed this morning regarding strategic enrollment management and COVID-19 recovery. I'll conclude with a reminder of our overall timeline. The process of planning, learning, adjusting, and improving is intended to never end. There is no perfect college, but we must always strive to continuously improve for the sake of our students and our communities. Thank you for your time this morning, your dedication to this very important process. I'm proud to have presented it. This workshop marks such a great milestone in that we can reflect and look back, but then also think about where we want to go. So thank you for your input and for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wilson, and to your team as well. We certainly appreciate it, and we appreciate the robust discussion. Our next item on our workshop is an update on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative. Cheryl Sanders and Mr. Rivera are going to provide that update to us.
Good morning, Regents. We're very excited to follow up. We won't have near as robust a discussion or presentation for you today as Dr. Wilson presented to you, but this is a good start, and it actually ties into a lot of what we're going to be looking forward in the near future on the DEI Development Committee. Dr. Scamia, I didn't know you wanted to tee it up, or you just wanted to go.
You're doing great. Just jump on in.
So Del Mar College has been around for almost 90 years. Pretty soon you're going to be celebrating the 90th birthday. And in that time, as you can see from the latest report from Dr. Wilson, there's been a lot of educational and advancement opportunity that's presented in our community. Diversity has always been a part of Del Mar College's success and evolution. And frankly, to borrow a word that I think is going to be very important in this work that's been used already in the prior conversation, it's been part of the culture around here. It really has been. Just some high points, whether it was providing a second chance for veterans who were coming back from World War II or the Korean conflict who needed to get readjusted and get training and education to go on and start a career, or whether it was integrating before Brown v. Board of Education made it the law of the land. And that's going to be a really, I think, great story to finally get captured and documented. Not everybody knows that in 1951, first through the courage of some students who came before this board and petitioned the board to integrate, to desegregate, and to make it available to all, that we're following the separate but equal thing here, just like everywhere else. But it took the courage of students to come forward and petition, again, your predecessors here, and it took courage from your predecessors to say that's the right thing to do before 3 years later it became law. Or by supporting the establishment in more contemporary times of a Mexican-American Studies program, not only supporting that, but also establishing a program here that has become quite a benchmark in the area. Or, if I may add in, whether it was providing an opportunity to hardworking housewives who wanted to go back into the workforce and they came here for that opportunity. Wherever they've come from, Del Mar College has always seen diversity as part of its culture and frankly as part of its strength. Just to put it into historical context, it was really a result of the awareness and the advancements that came out of the American civil rights movements in the 1960s that higher education formally adopted diversity as a core value and began incorporating it in policy and in practice.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Regents, Dr. Escamilla. As part of the strategic planning process, the college developed a mission statement, a vision statement, and value statements. Diversity and inclusion is one of the college's core values, which is essential in how we do our work. The value statements are the core principles that guide and direct the college and the culture. They guide decision-making and establish a standard against which actions can be assessed. In consideration of the persistent issues of inequality in our society, now more than ever, we recognize the urgency for advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in higher education. To re-examine equity issues through action, programs, and services, the Association of Community College Trustees 2021 Leadership Congress was dedicated to advancing diversity and inclusion. As part of the Del Mar College Board of Regents 2022 Action Plan, the Board of Regents committed to supporting Dr. Escamilla in creating and adopting a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan, and adopting a training policy to ensure that Del Mar College is fair and inclusive and reflects the diversity of our community. This sets the tone for the importance of advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion at the college.
So following up on the directive given by you as a result of your retreat last November, this spring, Dr. Natalie Villarreal actually did a substantial amount of work with guidance from Dr. Escamilla in setting out the preliminary groundwork, which included a review of DEI programming at other community colleges. We also did an overview of existing programming and policy at Del Mar College, reviewed materials, of course, from the ACCT conference and other conferences, and looked at other resources, including from the Department of Education online. All of this was to help advise Dr. Escamilla in deciding exactly how to take the first step and to move forward. What was going to be the framework for the study and review of doing our DEI first assessment here on campus, and then ultimately what we would do to formulate new policies and practices. Dr. Escamilla decided that in the time-honored tradition of the academy to appoint a committee. And so it's not a task force. He doesn't like that if you ask him. It doesn't have any grandiose term. It's just, he wanted to put something in there that indicated that it was going to be a working committee. Roll up your sleeves and let's get at it. So Dr. Escamilla has appointed a DEI Development Committee that will begin the formal DEI assessment on campus and the study process. The committee will be charged with formulating recommendations that will be presented to the president, which he will then look at and then ultimately be presenting to you as the board for consideration. The committee's composition is diverse. It's representative of all DMC stakeholders, and it'll be chaired by Ms. Sanders and myself. The first order of business for the committee, we expect that the committee will be meeting here within the next couple of weeks and starting its organizational meeting. And the first order of business will be to set up a regular meeting schedule and then an overall timeline. So by even the next meeting, we can have something that you can be looking at overall into how this is going to roll out. Any questions?
First, just thank you for the update. I appreciate that and appreciate us continuing to make this a priority as we established last November. My question is more, Madam Chair, for you and for Dr. Escamilla, and that is, I remember in our conversation, and it was reflected on the slide, that part of our commitment was to do some training ourselves as a board, to understand how we can be better self-reflective and aware of what we may be doing, or just make sure we're knowledgeable about the issue of DE&I in community colleges. Is it appropriate now for us to start talking about and researching some of those opportunities that may be out there, the possibility of bringing somebody in? I'm sure it's not a one and done type of situation. It may be something that we want to do fairly regularly. So I'm not sure what's out there, other than I was at ACCT when that was a priority, and there certainly are lots of folks out there who can help guide us on this.
Regents, got to have a quick update on that as well, because you all also identified there was an individual, I think, that may have facilitated a presentation last summer, Dr. Luis Ponjuan from Texas A&M. In any event, we've made contact with Dr. Ponjuan to see if this is something, as I understand it, he does this. He facilitates retreats and workshops with boards. And so we've at least made preliminary contact there. So if there are any additional suggestions or thoughts that you have about that, please let us know. But we're moving on that as well for you.
Great, thank you. I'm certainly open to whatever that entails. And like I said, I hope it's not a one-time training session for us. I just hope we move on it relatively quickly and, don't wait a year until we do some training on this.
Sorry, as I recall, part of the conversation was around making sure that we were working in concert with the internal committee, the Del Mar committee, and if there's recommendations. As we are exploring this, is there a linear or a sequential process that the board can go through? So as you all are doing your internal research and you're finding out what are kinds of policy sorts of discussions or overarching value kinds of discussions that the Board of Regents should be engaged in, we would encourage you to let us know that. What you're hearing and researching and observing. The discussion around Dr. Ponjuan was his presentations at the Board of Trustees Institutes that were kind of global in nature, and a number of us heard his presentations there over the last year. So I think he's done it at 2 different trustee institutes. And the recognition that he actually travels to Corpus Christi on a regular basis to do some other work, we were looking to take advantage of that. So I think if we can pursue that as a starting point for us to broaden our awareness and to have that conversation for us locally, at the table, and then to encourage the committee to give us some feedback as well as maybe some tasks and some questions and things that we might want to consider. Yeah.
I may, for the board to go through these processes, as Chair Scott was talking about, and to have those experiences and ultimately set a visionary statement and or make a visionary body of work of something, and come up with a product or something that is at that visionary level that really serves to guide us while we're operating and doing all the things in all the small groups and immediate groups and so forth, churning away at the operational level. We will be looking to the board to really, develop their own understanding, collectively speaking, and then imparting to us a visionary statement, if you will, at some point. Because then what we'll do is we'll bring the 2 bodies of work together, hash it out, and really move forward and affect and change policy. One of the things that I've noticed is spending as much attention as I have in Austin. I think I've said that at least 4 times today. But since so much energy is spent over there, I see all the DEI work that is done at all agencies and all levels. My son and I were at the Texas Parks and Wildlife website this weekend, and it had a DEI statement on there. So all hunters and fishermen are thinking about those kinds of things as well, as well as those enjoying the parks. I mean, it's everywhere, and so it is a matter where we're putting some energy in and moving forward as quickly as possible. not to a fault, but we are moving quickly on this. So those are the two pieces that are necessary. We do need the visionary statement from this board.
And I think we have a good start by what's in our core values.
Absolutely.
You know, it's
Lots-
a good statement that's in our core values, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all, Dr. Escamilla. I just don't want us to get bogged down and spend too much time on crafting a statement, if you will, when we have one in our core values.
Lots of low-hanging fruit all throughout the college as well. From the operational standpoint, many, many things going on, and we're collecting all of those and pulling all those things together quickly. That's duly noted.
We're going to leave you with three thoughts. First of all, I'm sure you would agree, especially those of you who attended the ACCT conference, it doesn't matter where you go, what area of the country, what community college size. From a review of all those programs, no one size fits all. There's no cookie cutter. It's got to fit your college, it's got to fit your culture, it's got to fit your people. Having said that, though, there are best practices. There are programming that's already out there that's successful, and so we're certainly going to be, plagiarizing, with impunity and bringing it here, because that's important. To that end, you can see we've included the American Association of Community Colleges little checklist on how to proceed. It's not necessary, out of respect for the committee process, we'll see what the committee input is before we formulate our own, but we think it's a pretty good start. And you can see the steps include define, then assess, educate, implement, and then ensure that all voices are represented and welcome in academic and operational practices. And the last thought, if there's anything that any of us have taken away from the presentation, the brilliant presentation by Dr. Wilson and her team this morning, is this is going to be data-driven. It's going to be important. You need to know exactly what the question is, and you need to have the information and the data before you can really truly assess. So with that, we're excited, and we want to thank the board for giving us the opportunity to do this. We're looking forward to it.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Dr.
Just a comment really quick. Thank you so much for this, just this item and for us to begin this discussion. I think that what happens many times in organizations is they'll come up with a great statement, they'll come up with great policies, and all of that's sort of put into place, but the action or the environment or the culture or the training doesn't transfer over. And so I'm looking forward to not only having this great statement, but how it's going to transfer and change. And I'm not saying we need to change, but I'm saying how it's going to impact behaviors and actions and hiring and staffing and students and programs and the whole bit. So I look at it as two things. One way, yep, we can check off all these boxes. We did that, we have the statement, we have this, we have that. But then how are those things going to actually change our environment to make this diverse and inclusivity organization? So just a thought.
No, it's a great thought, Dr. Villarreal, and the way we'll do that operationally or procedurally will be through our regular meetings and checkpoints with our strategic plan. We'll have those discussions in addition to workshops and other things like that to keep us.
And actually, I think that you all are already doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
I think the formalization of all of these things is going to surely help reflect, because I think that so much is already happening that's just not formalized. So great work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board, we're going to go into closed session, and we'll come out of that right prior to the 1 o'clock meeting and adjourn our workshop and then go straight into our 1 o'clock meeting. So after I read the closed session language, we're going to take a break, let you grab lunch, and then we'll meet in the closed session room. So the board will now go into closed session under Texas Government Code 551.071 regarding pending or contemplated litigation or legal claims or a settlement offer with possible discussion and action in open session, and the seeking of legal advice from counsel with possible discussion and action in open session. And under Texas Government Code 551.089 regarding security assessments or deployments related to information resources technology, network security information is described by Section 2059.055B, or the deployment or specific occasions for implementation of security, personnel, critical infrastructure, or security devices with possible discussion and action in open session. The time is 11:48 a.m. We'll try to meet back in the conference room right at noon. The Board of Regents is coming back in to open session at 1:04 p.m. with no action item, and so we will adjourn our workshop session at 1:04 p.m.